What's up, fellow hunters? So, pretty early. Actually, I fell asleep really early, 7 o'clock. So, as you can see, the sim has hit 10 iterations per node. Did it a couple days ago. Recorded a video yesterday. It was supposed to be, you know, 15 to 30 minutes, and it quickly turned into 4 hours. So, yeah, I'm not going to go through that and chop it up because there was parts where I just rambled and I'm not going to put that up there. So, um, so this is what you can expect, right? This is what you can expect for the tree when you run it. And when you look at this range, you're going to see that, it has a mix of iCards and these pseudo connectors, right? But as you can see that it doesn't open these hands. So let's compare it to a standard. Let's use some live poker, crush live poker, early position. So as you can see, they're very similar, but at the same time, not similar, right? In the sense that this is 9.35%, and this opens 9%, which is very close, but it does not open these or these. It chooses these hands instead. And I believe that it also doesn't open these. And the rest is going to be a mix, obviously. And the reason for that is because of open. Let's see, versus 3-bet. As you can see, we're going to call all the times that we do open those. But how often are we actually opening those? Very little. 10%, 8%, 6%, 14, 17. You're basically opening, one combo of each. So the widest defense range is going to be the button right here versus under the gun open. And as you can see, the range here. So we're going to go range save. It's not going to work. It uses these hands for board coverage, basically, right? Because if we go to early position on low boards, we're going to be stuck with overpairs. So on a, let's say, 7 of hearts, 6 of diamonds, deuce of clubs, this range versus, let's open the button range, and I mean, I know they're small, but do you see the difference, right? And this is the Crush Live Poker early position range. It's going to have a disadvantage. So then we open this up, and we'll do this range. Well, we'll just do this. King 10, queens, jacks, tens. I'm not going to put nines and eights because they're less than, well, I guess I could do sixes, sevens, and eights. Might as well do nines as well. Now, the equities only went up 1%, right? But if you look at the two ranges as a whole, right? So you have this range and this range. This will be a lot more difficult to play on low boards than this will be, if that makes sense. This range is going to play easier than this one. And that doesn't mean that this range is wrong, right? It's signifying that you need to be playing, fairly tight from early position. You need to be opening strong hands so that you are dominated less. So you can stay out of sticky situations. And these ranges are based on, the principle that you're going to get called a lot in live poker. This is upswing, but that's for 6 max. This is for full ring, Crush Live Poker, obviously. So this range is going to be easier to remember. It's going to be fairly easy to play. But you're going to be at a massive disadvantage on these low boards. Which is the reason why Munker opens these hands, because you have to remember that these pre-flop ranges are going to be balanced. So it's trying to avoid exploitation, right? It's trying to avoid being exploited. So in order to do that, it has to cover enough boards that this number, the EV, it has to cover enough boards that the EV will not, that it won't, but, and, well, I mean, it has to cover enough boards that it can't be exploited. I mean, I was trying to think of a different, like an analogy to use, but I can't really. Now, that being said, am I saying that you need to memorize all of this? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Because this doesn't take any tendencies into account, right? Because you're not a robot. You can't memorize every board texture and know when you're supposed to, you know, check raise bluff 7-6 of diamonds on the turn when there's two hearts and two clubs or whatever the case may be. You're never going to memorize everything. You're never going to memorize everything. So now, knowing this information, we can go open up this, and instead of, okay, so we know this is the range when you have solvers playing behind you, right? So when the solver is playing, we're just going to call the solver player a perfect player, right? No emotion, never makes mistakes, always fighting for that extra M chip, which one M chip is 1,000th of a small blind, right? So you're talking minute. So always fighting for the perfect player. So when you're sitting at a table full of perfect players, this is the range. Now, what if instead of perfect players, you have opponents who, in general, will will only 3-bet, because this is something that, you know, if you play a lot of live poker, you start to notice that most players in general don't 3-bet that often. You go to you see a bunch of multi-way pots. So how can you so we're going to make a new tree, and we're going to see the difference. We're going to go 8 players, and we're going to use everything that we already created, right? Two. You use the same thing that we created, YouTube pre. Well, no. What we're going to do is go YouTube pre, and then we're going to copy. We're going to make a new one. YouTube tutorial pre. And then we're going to lock 3-bet. And then we're going to paste. Save. just happened? Oh, oops. I think it's because I have the sim running. Maybe it's causing it to act wonky. And now we're gonna go lock 3-bet. And now we're gonna set our 3-bet range. Right, so our 3-bet range that we want to set is jacks plus, jacks through aces, ace X, queen Y for ace queen offsuit, ace X king Y for ace king offsuit, and ace X jack X, ace X queen X, ace X king X. That's it. Right? This is what I see in the games that I play is a typical 3-bet range. I mean, occasionally you get guys that'll like squeeze with 8s, but that's, that's something that I do. I squeeze light because most of the time people will open too wide and then the other players call too wide. So they end up with weak ranges. So the way to exploit those weak ranges is to build a pot in position with a stronger range, right? So I'm not worried about what my ranges are. I want to know what hand should I be opening, knowing that they will only 3-bet or ISO with these, or squeeze, right? This is the only range that they're going to use right here. Action default, YouTube. Same thing. Now, custom filter. We're going to use the same filters that we did before, which this time we're going to save street equals flop and no donk. And we're going to do triple barrel. Looks good, and we're gonna save triple barrel. Well, so now we should have triple barrels. And as you can see, this lock symbol means that 3-bets are locked. And if we go call, squeezes are also locked. bet, call, check, check. So now we need to add probes. Street equals turn and flop bets 0, 50, 150, 100. Street equals river and turn bets is 0. Save. So now it goes check, bet, call, check, check. We can probe. We can probe, raise. That's right. Okay, now we're going to run this sim with locked 3-bet ranges, and we're going to see how it affects early positions range at 11 iterations per node. Now, before medium, compact, I'll make that small. Get a smaller, solve a lot faster. Now, before we actually run this, I want to go over iterations per node. And let me get my tablet thing here and explain this, because I think that there's a misconception about how these solvers actually work. Turn this thing on. Let's open up Paint. So the way these solvers work, right? Let's see, we have preflop, flop, turn, and river. Right. Now let's say we have EP RFI as ER. And we'll say ER. Right, so let's say, well, instead of EP, let's call it under the gun. Name it UR. Damn it. No, whatever. UR. So we'll say under the gun opens, everyone folds. Under the gun opens, middle position 3 bets. Folds back to under the gun, we fold. Under the gun opens, folds to button who calls. Everyone else folds. We see a flop. We see bet, button folds. Same situation, open, see a flop with button, heads up. We bet flop, button calls. We see a turn, we bet turn, they fold. Then we go under the gun opens, middle position 3 bets, folds around to the big blind. Folds around back to under the gun. We 4 bet, they call. Flop goes check, check. Turn goes check, check. We bet the river, they fold. Now, we're going to have these for each position, right? So when under the gun folds, it goes to +1. And then you're going to have the same set of situations, blah, 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 each node, and then it's going to go down each one, right? All for every single position, and it's going to have each one individually. And what ends up happening is, so what 11 iterations per node means that every one of these has been ran 11 times, right? Because each one of these nodes, each one of these is considered a node. Each one of those has been ran 11 times. So this is what you end up with, because you have to remember too, the rake is high. So the solver wants to end the hand as quickly as possible. It does not put money in and gamble. It doesn't call with 10-7 suited to see if it can hit a flop. It doesn't care, because it has no emotion. It's just trying to find the highest. It's trying to make the most M chips, okay, which is 1,000th of a small blind. It's trying to maximize that at all times, no matter what. So what you end up with is a very small amount of nodes here, and then slightly more nodes here, and then slightly more nodes here, and you're going to have a massive amount of nodes here, because the solver plays extremely aggressive, right? In comparison to, say, a real live game, it's going to play extreme. It's going to be a lot closer to a, let's say, 5-10 online 6 max, right? If you've ever played mid stakes, you know that games are generally aggressive. There's very little calling. Mostly opens 3 bets, cold 4 bets, or folds, right? So the games are going to be extremely aggressive. And the reason for that is because aggression makes more money. So knowing that, when we run these, which one is it? This one. When we run these solves, there's, as you can see, a small, 2 billion nodes. There's going to be a smaller amount of nodes all out here. And if you go to this, and instead of, let's find it right here, right, 11.1, which it's been running for a few minutes, but whatever. Instead of clicking load all streets, if you click load one street, it's going to load pre-flop, which is going to be, it's going to not load these. It's going to load only this. And this is going to have somewhere in the 50,000 iterations per node, right? And that's way more than 11. Obviously, the number is going to be massive, because the way that the way the solver works is like this. So you have river, turn, flop, pre-flop. So the flop is solved. Where's my mouse? So the flop is solved at a perfect level, right, for the texture. So this will always be solved with the highest accuracy. Well, in order for it to get the highest accuracy here, it has to have a high accuracy here as well. And then as it moves to the turn in river, it will make adjustments. So say that, I'm just going to use this as an example. Say that on the river, it runs, whatever, it runs a billion hands with under the gun versus big blind, and is constantly making adjustments, trying to find the highest M chip play. And what ends up happening is at this river node that's here, right? There's a river node here. Say it's, under the gun opens, folds to the big blind calls. Big blind checks, under the gun bets, big blind calls, turn goes check, check. So it goes check, bet, call, turn goes check, check. On the river, it's now in this node on the river. These are the actions: check, bet, call, check, check. And now it's on the river. When it starts making adjustments, it starts here and tries to make those adjustments. And if it cannot get any higher any higher M chips, if it can't capture more M chips, then it will move here and adjust these ranges. And then circle back and try again and again and again. So this and this are going to be solved almost perfectly. It's really not going to make that many adjustments here and here. Which is why we run these solves and only capture pre-flop. I'm not worried about doing this, right? Open, call. I'm not worried about what the solver says to do on the flop. Even though it's solved perfectly, I don't care about that. I want just pre-flop. I hope that makes sense. In the next video, I'll have the pre-flop ranges open, and I'll have at least 10 iterations per node on the lock 3-bet, and we're going to compare those. So let's run the sim with lock 3-bets, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Try to make this video a little quicker. All right.